Everybody, it's really bright out today, and it's not as hot as it was the last week, especially. It was in the 30s, but it's about 25, 27, I think, right now. Got a nice breeze going, but yeah, it's the usual business around the motel. So, what a week. This month I was able to get through Stephen King's The Gunslinger and The Woman in Black by Susan Hill, and neither one was a particularly enjoyable choice for me. Now, I understand these are quite popular books. So The Gunslinger is about this guy named Roland who is racing through the desert in this kind of alternate reality to Earth, and he goes to a small town and a bunch of mayhem happens, and then he meets this young kid and they travel for a while, and then he has to meet the man in black alone, because this is the whole purpose. And then he meets the man in black, and you know what, I didn't get it. I didn't like it, didn't care for it, but I read it because June is Western month, and I mean, the gunslinger, two men meet, chaos happens. Yeah, that is kind of a Western. And then I guess the character Roland is kind of based on the Clint Eastwood gunslinger, spaghetti Western guy, which when the Dark Tower movie was cast, a lot of people were like, oh, why'd you cast Idris Elba? And I'm like, I'm over here going, I'll watch Idris Elba, you know, read the phone book. I love Idris Elba. But not everybody feels the same way I do. And likewise, why Matthew McConaughey for the Man in Black. But these characters are so archetypal that you can put anybody in that role, and as long as they, you know, do a good job at what the character does, then they're gonna be a reasonable choice. And I mean, you have to, for the Roland character, I guess the guy has to sufficiently play at being kind of haunted or whatever. I don't know. I didn't care for it. And I have never read the Dark Tower series, and I was thinking maybe in the next year or two I could start, but I don't know, after that introduction, I don't think I'm going to continue. I actually stopped reading Stephen King in the late 90s because it was like every road led back to the Dark Tower, and I hated it. And I think it wasn't until I read Bag of Bones a few years after it came out that I started to get back into his more, you know, not Dark Tower stuff. But that was kind of hard to come by for a long time there until he finished the series. So that was The Gunslinger, which not a good choice. And speaking of not particularly good choices, I also read The Woman in Black. Not the abridged version that I bought physical copy of, but the actual Kindle version of the original novel. And oh, I didn't find it any particularly intriguing. I mean, kind of saw it coming from a long way back. Maybe I'm just too jaded. Maybe I've just read too many ghost stories of the same ilk, or maybe it drew too heavily from its own inspiration. But I'd always heard how scary it was and how creepy it was, and I don't know, maybe I need to see the movie with Harry Potter or something. But it took about 150 more pages than it should have to tell the same story. I could have told that story in 30 pages and it would have been a better story. And also, the story has this infuriating way of everything happening 2 and 3 times. Like, the same thing has to happen. Like, you're just trying to fill pages at that point. And yeah, I didn't care for it. So the plot is about, so first of all, we waste like 5 pages. This guy and his kids are sitting around telling ghost stories, and they say, hey Dad, tell us one. And then he goes and runs up to his room, and starts looking back at the time he actually had something scary to talk about. Again, framing device, cannot stand them. They're just filler. And then, so he goes into a flashback of when he was a young lawyer. He gets hired to go and work on the estate of this old lady who just died. And it's a creepy, old, tiny little town at the edge of England in Victorian times. And this mist comes and goes without warning. And he goes to this woman's funeral. And there's this real creepy lady there who stares at him. And so he goes back to the old lady's house, and all these weird things start happening. And there's a room that nobody goes into, and he can't open the door. And he hears something thumping. And I mean, it took like 3 different tries for him to actually break in. And by this time I'm going, that's a rocking chair. That's a rocking chair. Da 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 da. So he finally breaks in, and oh, it's a rocking chair. Ooh, and it's moving by itself. So he goes to the village and talks to the person there that will talk to him, who's like the only person who will talk to him. And the guy says, okay, you need a dog. So he gives him a dog to take back to the creepy house. And while he's there, he hears a dog out in the mist, and he hears a kid crying, and he hears all this other weird stuff. And he goes out to look for the accident, and there's no accident. Then this happens like 3 or 4 times, and I don't know. I just kind of lost the thread from there. And I'm probably doing a real bad job of recapping it, but this is how boring this book was. So finally, the reveal of who this lady in black is, why she's so mad, and what happens. It's all crammed into the last 5 pages anyway, so you might as well just skip to the last chapter. Like, read the first chapter and the last chapter, and that's pretty much all that happens. And yeah, not worth your time. I'm so sorry. Both of these books I'll give like 3.5. What I did like, the Dark Tower, the Gunslinger, I mean, Stephen King obviously is creating an entire world, so the world is kind of interesting. There's interesting people. It's just Roland himself is not that interesting. And I mean, you're walking through a desert. A desert is not that interesting. It's a desert because it's not that interesting. There's nothing in it. And then the woman in black, it's not that interesting. I mean, there's some creepy atmosphere that happens, but it would happen if it would be a lot better if it was just a much tighter story, and everything only happened once. There's a start. And then to try to cram all of the good stuff into the last 10 pages is like, why spend 200 pages building up something that is going to be gone and over in a couple of pages? It just is really, that was really frustrating for me. So, but yes, the woman in black is a pretty creepy denizen of the night, or actually she hangs around, and her anger's understandable. And the quicksand, there's a joke going around that people of my generation, really thought that quicksand was going to be a bigger threat than it ever turned out to be. The creepy old building with the creepy old ghost with the creepy old town that nobody wants to talk about was good atmosphere, but just way too long for it. So yeah, that was my reading month. July, I don't think there's anything particularly special coming up. Today is Canada Day. So usually in July I try to read stuff that's kind of summery, and I do try to read some Canadian authors because Canada Day. The other thing I do want to point out is that the Garbology, which has my story in it, Manhunt is the name of my story. I almost forgot for a minute there. If you want a taste of the story, I do read it on my Let Me Read You a Story playlist. And I think just for kicks, I might actually read some of the other stories in the Garbology. But if you do want to pick it up, make sure you do it soon because it's going to be out of print, pulled from all the sales sites. So thanks, and again, shout out to Criminali and to Troy Trout for putting that together and for letting me be in it. It was a lot of fun. The Trash Tales anthology is going to be out, I believe it's supposed to be out August 1st, so you can look for some marketing ahead of that, I guess. And I'll be reading my story for that one. And life update, I know this is depressing, but we get another week in the room, yay. It's just been drama and ridiculousness, but hopefully, I don't know what's going on with that. I mean, we've been lucky enough that we could beg or borrow from week to week, but the coffers are pretty dried up. You know, times are tough, as I've said before. But, yeah, I don't know what's going on. I still have been unable to find a job, and that's really what I need right now, is just to get back to work. I'm always better when I'm working, because at least I can go to work and not think about all of the stresses of my day-to-day life. But, I mean, between my credit and my health, a lot of employers, I guess, just don't want me anymore, so who knows what's going to happen, right? But, I don't know. Let's think positive. My sister's always watching these, like, self-help things, and it's like, send your good energy out to the universe, and the money will come to you, and tell the universe that you want the money to come to you. So we sit there, and we go, we're ready. The lottery just has to find us. So yes, wish us well. But that's it for me. And yeah, I'd like to do some more interviews and whatnot, but I will get on that obviously as soon as I figure other things out. And so yeah, I don't have any specific plans for July, but I do have some thoughts about it. I'm sure I will update you as it comes, and I hope you're reading lots of horror. Have a great day.